Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we spend 1 week highlighting an up-and-coming North American player. Throughout the week, we find out more about the player's history, their personality, and their playstyle over the course of 6 short episodes. On Monday, we'll interview the player and find out more about them. Tuesday through Thursday, we'll watch a game from each of the various matchups casted by your very own Fear Dragon. On Friday, we'll check out a generally awesome game with some sick play, and on Saturday, we'll kick it back with the player and have some wacky fun with some randomly selected events like handicap ladder matches, karaoke, and dance contests. Each episode aims to be about 20 to 30 minutes long, so you can learn more about the North American StarCraft 2 scene without interrupting your busy WCS schedule. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to another episode of Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. And speaking of which, we have two amazing North American StarCraft 2 players ready here today for the awesome game. It is Friday. I hope you guys are excited as I am and having fun. Let's go ahead and jump into it, introduce the players as we spawn up here in the top left-hand corner. On top of a familiar face for many, it is going to be representing Team Evil Geniuses. Evil Geniuses, Soppy! And his opponent, spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of Whirlwind as the purple Protoss player, going to be representing Team Clarity Gaming. It is Clarity Gaming's SaroVati! And these two players are having a little bit of a rematch. I mean, we actually saw both of these players playing each other earlier on. And looks like this is actually an official game with obsing and everything. And oh, actually, am I on the slowest speed? Okay, I'm good. I'm good. All right. So regardless, as I was saying, these two players have played each other over on the Monday game. So it's gonna be a little bit of a rematch, and I'm really interested to see how this is gonna go, as it looks like SaroVati going for a very very pylon over at the natural expansion. So this is looking like this might actually be a Forge Fast expansion. And we end up seeing them talking about some sort of previous games. So these two players, again, have played each other quite a bit. They hit each other. They practice with each other and whatnot, it seems. So they're going to be pretty friendly. And they're going to know a little bit more about each other's play styles. So with that being said, we see Soppy going for that spawning pool first. Of course, going to be a little bit of a safer play, especially against a Protoss player like SaroVati, who you can't entirely just try and predict. He can play a little bit unpredictable because he likes to be a little bit crazy. He likes to come up with his own crazy kind of builds. He mentioned in his interview that he had an idea for a build that involved getting out a sentry to attack each one of his opponent's Zerglings with some aggression. You get one sentry and a ton of zealots. And you substitute the sentry for +1 weapons because it just attacks so gosh darn fast. So you can see SaroVati likes to do all these kind of crazy things. So we'll have to see if he decides to do it in this game. He's going to be going for that Nexus first, so no Forge going up first. That means that SaroVati not going to be able to really do a whole lot to deny this natural expansion now that it's gone down. But he can try and just be annoying and it looks like hide this probe somewhere way over here. And actually it looks like there's going to be an Overlord heading that direction, so you might have to move that a little bit later on. But the Forge is going to be going down and everything looking pretty standard for the most part. In the meanwhile, Soppy from Team Evil Geniuses is an absolutely fantastic player. I believe he's currently in Premier League for WCS, and he's actually one of the big foreign hopes. Certainly a Korean killer, and has had some great results in the past. And oh my god, did that Overlord just barely not... I don't think that he actually saw that pro, so that's some pretty Gosu timing over there from Clarity Gaming SaroVati, and he's actually trying to get scouted out, it seems, by this Overlord. As you can see, just barely getting a vision of it, but I don't think that actually Soppy had the opportunity to actually scout out that probe. So in the meanwhile, looks like he's just going to be looking for that probe with these two Zerglings, or sorry, this one Zergling, and this other one is actually a drone going to become a third expansion, which is going to be pretty safe against this Forge Fast expansion, although Soppy has to confirm that by going ahead and sending out this little scouting Zergling, and he's actually going to be able to whittle away at this probe, be as annoying as possible. And with this photon cannon not quite finishing up, Soppy saying, "You've been greedy, boy. You shouldn't be able to actually have up all of this before you actually throw down your cannon. Your cannon should have finished after your gateway, not before it. Or sorry, but it should have finished before your gateway, not after it." So SaroVati gonna happily get away with that though, so we'll have to see Does Suppy return the favor and play equally greedy, or does he get a little bit aggressive? Both are definitely potential opportunities. But in the meanwhile, SaroVati just going to be content to just continue making probes, get those guys onto those gas guys, just start mining. I mean, they are not unionized just quite yet. They're just basically, they're pretty... Okay, look. Probes are kind of dull, right? Everyone agrees that they're sort of annoying, but I'm not entirely sure that they have a mind of their own, so... They're pretty much going to do whatever SaroVati tells them to do. Drones are just like, I guess they're not dull per se, but they've been controlled by the overmind. So, you know, hive mind mentality. I'm sure you've heard that phrase. It actually comes directly from StarCraft 2. Just a heads up on that. So, regardless of all of that, we're going to go ahead and take a look as SaroVati has planted down that Stargate. Stargate, going to be a really good tech choice, I think, for SaroVati and his playstyle, considering, I mean, we did see in the PvZ for this week that he'd like to go for Stargate, and it pays off because he has the multitasking capabilities. He has that aggressive capability to actually handle the Stargate play. It takes a lot of micro. Have you ever heard about, Liquid Hero, an absolutely fantastic player as well, and one of my favorite Protoss players to watch? Liquid Hero is a very multitasking and very micro-oriented player as well, so... People often say, he likes to go for Stargate because it suits his playstyle. Very, very similar story for Clarity Gaming's SaroVati, and we'll have to see if he can make it work out against Suppy, because Suppy, again, is a very, very strong player, and, Suppy is going to be scouting out with these 4 Zerglings. I'm going to be looking to see what he can do. Just probably checking, actually, to see whether or not the +1 weapons was being researched over on that forge, and we actually see that it's not. But, where has there been any, okay, so there has been a single Phoenix been produced, and he's actually cut the production for a little bit. Now going to be going into the Void Ray production. That is super interesting. If this Overlord actually gets a scout off on that Stargate, he should be able to see that's a Void Ray instead of Phoenix, but no, not actually going to be able to do that, so he will be a little bit in the dark, probably going to be thinking, oh, additional Phoenix coming up, and whoa, what is this? SaroVati going for a hidden 3rd expansion? This is absolutely insane. But Suppy is going to be scouting out and seeing, hey, there's a Stargate over here, and that looks a lot like a Void Ray. Do you guys see the Void Ray in there? You see the little wings over there and everything? Yep, you can see the units as they are coming out, and that is going to be a huge tell, actually, if Suppy did, in fact, notice that. The Void Ray popping out immediately afterwards. The Hallucinating Phoenix is going to be going down, though. This is the fake Phoenix, and of course, Suppy's going to realize that as it attacks the Overlords and not actually do any damage, but Spore Callers are going to be going up at each one of these bases. Suppy reacting pretty much exactly spot on how he should be right now, I think. Getting up the Hydralisk Den also going to be very, very useful. Hydralisk handled this, these Void Rays pretty gosh darn well. And honestly, a lot of players have been handling Stargate tech with those Hydralisks much, much better, as opposed to Wings of Liberty, where you kind of go Hydralisk, but you really don't want to. It's working out much better in Heart of the Storm, but regardless, let's talk a little bit about this 3rd expansion. No way, that is the coolest thing. And SaroVati, once again, showing us how, awesome you can be when you just put your mind into the game. Doesn't want to key off the fact that he's taking an expansion on the opposite side of the map. Doesn't want to send his probes across the map so that they get scattered up by the Zergling at the Zelnaga Watchtower and whatnot. So he recalls them over to this bottom left-hand expansion. That is very, very cute. And also, of course, shutting down the vision with his Phoenix. This is a really, really smart opening. And I'm a little bit worried now for Suppy because he has no idea about that. Yeah, he knows that there is a Stargate play, but, I mean, the most that he really is probably wondering is, why haven't I seen more Stargate units? Where are all of them? And now, he did actually end up seeing the Void Ray because he poked out over the natural, or at the Zelnaga Watchtower, but one thing that he's also going to be wondering is, hey, where is my opponent's 3rd? He checks over here. He has another Zergling over here. He's going to be thinking, okay, there's probably some kind of big 2-base all-in, but it should have hit about 45 minutes, or about 45 seconds to a minute and a half ago, if he was going to go for some sort of Stargate pressure. And he's got to be thinking, I sent my Zerglings up. That's not as many units as I expected. What in the world is going on? And we end up seeing High Templar's actually out, but Storm is not finished researching. This is going to be a bit of a difficult situation, and SaroVati is going to have some pretty awesome force fields to actually hold this off right now. Those are some pretty good force fields, sending a lot of those Hydralisks through the choke. The Voiders are able to pick away at those. These Hydralisks not actually able to do a whole lot of damage to anything other than maybe the pylon or some of the buildings, but now with those force fields finally expired, SaroVati going to be in a much, much more difficult position as these Hydralisks are now finally in range. They're going to at least be able to pick up this forward upgrading the +2 weapons research, and it looks like some Zerglings also managed to make their way in. Managed to pick off all those sentries. That is a big win for Suppy right now, and Evil Genesis Suppy looking to be in a very, very good situation. The Cybernetic score, and one of the Warp Gates is depowered, but there are just so many Void Rays, and it looks like with the target fire down on those Hydros, he's able to clean all of them up. Now the Void Rays will go uncontested, but these Zerglings are just being rallied across the map so quickly, and the Cybernetics core is actually going to be taken out. Now we end up seeing the Zerglings just reigning supreme. It doesn't matter whether you have air superiority, if there are so many Zerglings that your Void Rays can't actually kill them fast enough, and we can see how taxed SaroVati is right now. He's not even able to warp in everything into warp gates immediately as they end up finishing up, and SaroVati finally going to stabilize just a little bit over in the natural expansion, but the main base is getting ravaged still by all these Zerglings on +1/+1. These Zealots are actually not able to do as much damage as they would like to because the +2 weapons got canceled, and that is a super unfortunate situation, and a great play by Suppy. Suppy absolutely doing a fantastic Zergling run by after losing a ton of those Hydros, and it looks like just kind of rallying in additional Hydros. That's a pretty good call, but the one thing you have to remember is that SaroVati still has this this third expansion over the bottom left-hand side, and Suppy still does not know about it. He might kind of be wondering now, like, hey, you know, you had a little bit less than I thought. But at the same time, it's kind of difficult to say because you don't normally see a Protoss player go for a build like this, where you go for a lot of Voiders off a double Stargate and then go straight into a lot of High Templar. I mean, Suppy might just be thinking, well, I guess my opponent is doing some kind of wonky build. Haven't seen it too much before, so maybe this is just how the economy works out. Of course, when you're in the midst of game, it's hard to make all those kind of calls, but we do end up seeing Suppy being a little bit more aggressive once again. Moving in with the Zerglings. Zerglings doing a great job tanking that, but now we have Psionic Storm. This is going to be so difficult for Suppy to break. You cannot move up a ramp with pure Hydroless against Psionic Storm. It's going to be too difficult against this many High Templar unless you are really confident with your overwhelming macro and overwhelming numbers. And with Photon Overcharge going down, he's also going to be able to do some nice damage to these Hydros while that Nexus is actually going to be completely uncontested. More Psionic Storms going down, and it looks like, oh, that is a big storm right on top of all those Hydros and the Queens actually. And it looks like, with that being said, the Queens cannot out-micro that, and the Psionic Storm is everywhere. It is raining Psionic Storms over here today, as well as energy beams from the sky of the Void Rays, and these Queens are going to be taken out. The Hydros just take too much damage, and Suppy may have made a bit of a blunder trying to go up that ramp against SaroVati, and SaroVati definitely taking a big advantage after all of that. Suppy might actually still be wondering, like, what is going on? Why does he have this many units? Why does he have this many High Templar? How does he have that much gas? And these are all going to be questions that he could have answered if he knew about this expansion, but he doesn't. And again, I have to highlight, Suppy's kind of had control of the map this entire time. He has creep spread going through over here. He's had control of the Xel'Naga Watchtower for about 80% of the game. So he's got to be thinking, like, there's no way that my opponent could have snuck an expansion out all the way to the bottom left-hand side of the map, right? Because he's just had map control the entire time. When did his opponent have time to do it? And honestly, the answer is very early on. He hid that probe at the bottom left-hand corner, and he recalled all of his other probes over there. It's not something you would expect. But now we end up seeing Suppy has some sort of answer to all those Void Rays and those High Templar, and it's going to be the Infestors. Now, Infestors not so much an answer to the High Templar, unless you can get some great fungal growths off over on those High Templar. And we've seen SaroVati has a very scary army, and especially with those Archons kind of in the mix. But if you lay some fungal growths down on those Archons, it'll kind of lock down all your opponent's units. But here's, we end up seeing a nice little bit of Zealot harassment, just kind of picking away at some of these drones with one of those proxy pylons from that bottom left-hand expansion. And that might actually tip Suppy off and say, like, there's a proxy pylon somewhere. So Suppy might actually go looking for it. A bit of an interesting decision. We actually have this Zealot chasing after this Infestor. This Infestor is like, help, Queens! And of course, it's going to be close, but it looks like it does actually get saved by the entirety army of Suppy. So Suppy having some great multitasking over there to notice that, while also dealing with some of that other harassment. But Suppy finally giving a little bit of leeway to SaroVati to move out a little bit. These Zealots do actually have charge, also finished researching. And Suppy is wondering, like, WTF, what is going on? He looks like he hasn't scouted everything. Oh, I think that he actually lost a creep tumor, apparently, like, after it finished or something crazy like that. I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, we're going to see the big engagement go down, and those are the kinds of fungal growths I was talking about that Suppy needs to get. He has a ginormous concave, but some nice storms are still going down. We still have a lot of High Templars with energy, and those are the kind of storms that actually SaroVati could use to turn this engagement around. And even though all the Queens are doing a great job over here trying to pick away at the Void Rays, it looks like there's just too much over here for SaroVati. He just has so much DPS, so many Archons, so many Void Rays, so many Psionic Storms to spare that Suppy is just unable to break it. And even though Suppy is sitting on a 4-base economy, thinking that, hey, my opponent is probably just now establishing that third expansion. I mean, he has to be thinking at some point, at this point, like something is going on. Something is not right. Something is not adding up math-wise. But regardless, he just doesn't really have the opportunity to go around and, I guess, scout out. Or maybe he is just not entirely sure. He doesn't even think it's a possibility. Because, again, he's had that map control with all this creep. Where, I guess you could kind of move down over here. Some people might expect something like that. But regardless, this expansion has been paying off. And, oh my god, Suppy expanding just outside of the range of SaroVati. And now we end up seeing SaroVati trying to move out. Maybe trying to take a fake fourth expansion. Quasi-fake. Probably wants to take a fourth expansion, or at least start establishing some pylons to get some vision down over here for Zergling run-bys, but Suppy gonna get chased out from those Zergling run-bys and actually trying to come up over here, just, I guess, and trying to deal with some of those Zealots that are running around, and oh my god, SaroVati warping in some Zealots on the high ground and then sending them straight over here, and Suppy's gotta be thinking like, oh man, that's really unfortunate. How did he already know that I had units over there? And oh my god, does Suppy actually know? Does he know? He's moving over here. He wants to probably take out those Zealots, but he might actually scout it out. But not actually if he gets some great fungal growth and just takes the engagement over here. This could be, once again, what Suppy needs. Suppy has been a little bit further behind, but he has the macro to make up for it. The Cyanic Storm's going down. SaroVati taking the advantage of the micro and the engagement, whereas Suppy taking the advantage in the macro. Can this pay off? Who is going to come out victorious? It looks like right now, SaroVati coming out victorious, as he just had such a good engagement over there. This charge zealot just taking all the damage, and GG gets called. Evil Genius's Suppy falls to Clarity Gaming SaroVati. So SaroVati taking a great engagement over there, and actually, even though it's not true for the entirety of their play history, Suppy, an absolutely fantastic player in the Collegiate Star League finals. He actually went 4-0 against SaroVati, so he's a great player. But these players have a bit of back and forth, and on breaking out at least, Suppy is currently behind 2-0 to SaroVati. So SaroVati, a very, very strong player, able to take out players like that. And Zealot is once again harassing. So a really great game and really wonky kind of ideas from SaroVati, using that probe to throw down that very early, I think it was like a 7 or 6 minutes third expansion Nexus. Completely hidden in the bottom left-hand corner, and using the Mothership core to recall your probes to make sure that it stays hidden. Going for a double Stargate opening to shut down the vision while you do all this. And then transitioning into a very, very fast High Templars, which is honestly a bit of a greedy play, but he had Suppy pinned. He had him pegged and knew that he could get away with it, and it ended up working out. He got Cyanic Storm just in time to deal with some of those Hydros after the Hydros tried to move up, I guess the earlier push, with just some great force fields and whatnot. He was able to hold off against that for the most part. Although Suppy is just so good that he actually gets the Zerglings over into the main base to harass anyways. But, I mean, really well played by both these players. This is most certainly an awesome game. So thank you so much to Clarity Gaming SaroVati for sending me this one. But with that being said, this is the final game of Clarity Gaming SaroVati week. But we still have another episode tomorrow, where we're going to just be chilling, having some fun with SaroVati tomorrow. So please be sure to tune in for that. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Pacific or 12 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. Eastern time zone. And you can also catch the VODs over at youtube.com/FearDragon64 or catch the live thing at twitch.tv/FearDragon64. So please go ahead and follow over there. And if you enjoyed this episode or have any feedback, please leave a message over in the TL thread. The link should be either in the chat right now or down below the video, depending on whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And please, please, please go give Clarity Gaming SaroVati and Evil Genius's Suppy a follow. If you're not following both of these players right now, you done messed up. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And I'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful night, guys. Stay beautiful.